Get this Pitchfork. They wrote Love. I mean, I've cut out most of the fucking nonsense that they write. But so Lovecraft is a utopia. No, I say most, not all.
Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. It's Andy and it's John, and we're here to discuss some music. And John, you are going to be offering up a song for everybody to listen to. Hopefully one
Still
that I
got
can
it.
pull off some sweet moves like that too. What have you got up your sleeve for me and the rest of the class?
Okay, so this is a band which you have listened to before, but on Into the Music, I believe, not on this channel, unless I'm wrong, which I could be. I have vague memories. I'm pretty sure it's Into the Music, and that is Super Furry Animals.
Uh yeah, that was Into the Music. That was Piccolo Snare, I think was the name of that
Yeah,
track. Yeah, and they had done a couple other tracks by them too. I think one of them was named after the Williams sisters or something like that. If I'm not mistaken,
maybe.
like Venus and Serena or something. But yeah, that's pretty much all I really have gotten from them. I'm surprised it's been this long since we've gotten back around to them when you think about it. But
Yeah.
yeah, what's the track you're gonna have me check out?
Atomic Lust.
Ooh, sultry. Okay, well, let me go off and give this Atomic Lust a listen, and I will come back and let you know if I'm hot and bothered.
If your moon should eclipse me and block out my sun, ride on typhoons and hurricanes, watch sky map on rerun. Find time to walk on wild, heads down, no stress. Find some atomic blues whenever more else.
Okay, so the drums just came in proper. Sounds like a good time for me to kind of pause and reflect on that first bit that I just heard. Wow, yeah, first minute there. Um, I loved this like kind of like pulsating effect that we get initially, and it kind of like for me was connoting this idea of like something coming in and out of focus. Now I know the visualizer is not really, perhaps it's making me biased, but I also think that the song inspired this sort of visualizer effect that we've got going on here. So perhaps it kind of underscores what I'm feeling as well. Is that this kind of like psychedelic kind of sound, and that's only further kind of itself underscored by these like airy harmonies that are going on in the vocals, this kind of dreamy quality as well. And I think dreamy and psychedelic can go hand in hand. They definitely do, from my experience in this song. Yeah, this lovely touches on the keys as well as things progress throughout that minute and kind of build a little bit. Just add some wonderful variation to the music as well. Yeah, I'm really, really enjoying it. It's very, very pretty, very dreamy kind of sound to it thus far. Let's see how it progresses from here. It sounds like we've got proper drums coming in. Maybe there'll be some sort of dynamic shift, possibly. We've got 3.5+ minutes to go, so let's see. The strings. Very pretty orchestral sound.
So long, the thrills long gone. No more duress. No more atomic love.
Song title.
Whenever more or less.
All right. Oh, it is amazing what a kind of a 3 second kind of pregnant pause can, the amount of anticipation or curiosity that can get built in that brief of a time period, because I had no idea, certainly the song wasn't over, right? But I had no idea where it was going to go from there. And for it to go where it did with this just sort of thunderous, bombastic quality, everything comes in and hits you like a wave. I don't know. There's something really redeeming about that effect. It's just like I don't know, like euphoria in the face of, like, because you're almost lulled and then you're like jolted, but in the best way. In the best way. It's not like being woken abruptly from sleep. But it is like, I don't know, like a shot of espresso, or like your endorphins or something go off. Let's try to take that back a little bit. I'm not sure where that happened.
Whenever more or less.
One of those piano hits.
Let's get our shit together. Insane with cracked brains. I'd love to see the ending someday of Citizen Kane. Find time to walk on wine.
I don't know what it is about these drums, but they're reminding me very much of like Ringo style drums, like the very. I'm taken to the Beatles when I hear these, when I'm listening to these very simple but perfectly played drums.
Heads down, no stress. Find some atomic gloves. Whenever more or less.
Yeah. Yes, I like that kind of winding down effect there at the end. No, this was a really great song. I love the sort of night and day like appeal of the dynamic shift there, and how they make it work. Now, granted, the first time they did it, it required kind of this um, pause, this slightly elongated pause, but that was to an amazing effect. The way it just washed over me, and I'm sure anyone who's ever listened to this song, particularly for the first time, when they hear that, it's like. The second time it comes back around, it's teased a little bit more, I think, with this kind of like piano work before it fully engages again. Um, really great stuff. Simple but effective, very effective drum work throughout this. The guitar really shines. His vocals really lend to like the more dreamier aspect of this song. And yet it's interesting when you hear it with the more fervent bit of the music as well. I don't know. This is a really good song. I'd like to give it another listen. Done one. I think we did one Super Furry Animals track on Into the Music where there were others that were done on the channel in general as well. This was probably my favorite of the ones that I've listened to this point. Yeah, I really, really like this one a lot. I didn't catch much of the lyrics, just that bit of the hook where the song title is actually, sung. And then, even then, it's not really much to shine too much light on what this is about, but I'm sure there is a gentleman who can do that and a whole lot more when it comes to helping me out with this band, and that's John. So, let's get back to him.
Zuta laws, as they say. He is back. So what do you make to Atomic Lust?
Oh man, this is probably my favorite track by these. I mean, of the few that I've heard, this is probably my favorite one that I've heard. To be honest with you, I really enjoyed this song a lot. It was kind of an interesting take on kind of a psychedelia kind of its own.
Yeah,
and yet I still recognize it as having the psychedelic sound almost immediately, and I joked like the visualizer was kind of probably slanting my bias, but at the same time, that visualizer was probably inspired by the same intuition that told me it was psychedelic. Yeah, that's why they added that to it. So
yeah,
the sort of kaleidoscopic.
it's quite a cool visualizer, actually.
Yeah, it marries so well with the music, which I guess was kind of my point that I kind of realized. That like, oh, maybe it's influencing me. It's like, no, maybe the song influenced it and me to think it's psychedelic, because it was just that, and it begins with this like really interesting pulsating kind of synth sound, that to me connotes this idea of something coming in and out of focus, like things getting blurry and then vivid and blurry and vivid or something like that. And there's also this like faint metallic instrument. Now I don't know if this was a tambourine or sleigh bells, but it was something to that effect that was going on in the background as well. And it was keeping this very simple, rhythm and beat to it, and just kept everything moving forward. And the singer begins to croon over the music, and there's almost this like again psychedelic adjacent kind of sound to the song. And further adding to that are these like really pretty harmonies that are layered on top of each other as well. And that kind of adds to this dreamy psych state that they've already crafted to this point. And we get to the 30-second marker and the piano is introduced, and it flirts with this like little melody, but for the most part it kind of stays in line with the staccato punchy sound of the rhythm as well. And every once in a while you'll catch like a little flourish of melodic notation from it, but then it kind of falls back in line, which is great. I mean, I like that little variance. Finally, just over a minute into the song, and the drums fully join the song, and they provide this very straightforward beat dominated by the snare hit. And as the song is filling out a bit more and kind of blossoming, we are treated to the beautiful sounds of like what I believe are orchestral strings. Now, for a moment, I almost thought I heard like a faint horn in the very beginning of this new sounds being introduced, but the strings were the most easy to identify for me, because there were now you went from hearing not very much and there being all this open space to now it's kind of like they're flooding a kind of a desensitized system because I'm so used to like not hearing sounds. They start pushing them in there, and I'm trying to catch them all, and they caught me off guard. But I definitely heard some lovely orchestral sounds, string on bow, and they're going up and down. Really, really loved that.
It's
And
all real instruments as well.
yeah, I could tell that the strings were likely, but the other things that I was like, is that a horn? I didn't know if that was being patched in as just like this ambient kind of background sound to fill depth, or if that was actually someone sitting down with their instrument. But that's really, really cool to have you confirm that. So yeah, there's all these like added layers and depth coming into being added to the song at this point. I'm only liking it more and more at this juncture. And the singer then delivers the lines so long, and these are like really the only lyrics that I really focus on or stood out to me. And I think it's because it had the song title in it, and it was also he was very clear at this juncture in the tune. He said, "So long, the thrills either long gone or all gone. No more duress, no more atomic lust. Whenever more or less, or whatever more or less, something to that effect." And the music kind of suggests by way of sustained fading, like a note fading, that we were coming up with the end of the song, but there's no way that this. I saw the timestamp. Nice try. But it was really interesting. Like from the 206 to the 209, we had this like pregnant pause kind of going
Proper
on here.
break, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it's like you said it before too. I can't remember the song, but it was like once you reach a certain beat of silence, it's like this is bold. This is kind of brave for you to hang on this extra thing. I think it was a Manchester song we did or something like that. But it was the same sort of like extra pregnant pause in the music that really leads you to wonder what's about to come next, as if a pause wouldn't already do that, but it only bolsters it more by elongating it. And then when 210 hits, the song just comes, it barrels over you. Comes back to life with this new fervor that it never really had, this intensity that it never had. And for about 30 seconds, we are treated to these crashing drum strikes and wailing lead guitar over top of heavily distorted rhythm guitar, like these chords being struck. And it's all like bombastic, but in the best way. And then toward the end of that bit, the piano also makes an appearance, or it's when I notice it anyway, in this cacophony of sound. And it almost signals or ushers back in the motif from earlier in the song. So we kind of like come down off this part of our trip, our psychedelic trip, and fade back into sort of this like the calm seas of this experience. And around the 305 mark, the drums do this almost shuffled, stuttered flourish before reintroducing the beat proper. And it's at this point I'm kind of like this is reminding me of Ringo. Like the drum line in the song reminds me of like any drum line Ringo could have played with the Beatles. Especially this little like the little flourishes he do that are not over the top, but they're so tastefully done and kind of segue very nicely into the next portion. And I'm not sure if I'm alone on that, but I instantly thought, wow, this is very Ringo-y to me. And we get this very brief bit of ascending notation on the piano, and then by the 340 mark, we're back into this maelstrom of like high punctuated key strikes, which I love. That like that key note just getting pounded on. Love that. And then when that's happening, you get this phasing sci-fi sounding guitar and effects that are swirling over top. Again, this crashing drum beat. So there's all these little interesting things that are happening in this that make up this like I don't know. It reminds me of like Voltron, like this old cartoon from back in the day when everything assembles to make this bigger thing. That's kind of what's happening, but it's still
Battle
cool
of
to
the
be
planets, my friend. Battle of the planets.
Yes. So it's kind of cool to see that musically like take place, like all these things come together to make this big thing, but still to be able to discern or cut through all of it and find these little bits that are kind of like carrying their weight, right? And then at the 408, the music releases its foot from the gas pedal, and we're still treated to some stellar work by the keys and the guitar as they kind of work together to carry us home to the end of the track. And I thought it was a great song with great movements and shifts. Really balance being struck by all the bit players in this tune. No one was really the star. Everyone kind of worked together. which I thought was interesting, and we'll get to in another track that we do later, where there was kind of a juxtaposition for me, just an observation or a bit of foreshadowing. But yeah, I really loved how everyone kind of worked together in this and made this one thing so prolific at times throughout this song. I really thought it was awesome. Loved this one, man.
Cool. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, the previous song I gave you, I think, was because of my love of the melody in particular and the anti-war sentiment. They're a really interesting band. I'll get into it in a sec, but I mean, this was a bit of a roller coaster of a song, and they have many influences and genres or subgenres which they dally with. You know, they used to turn up to gigs in an old tank and play techno music and stuff, and then crash out the indie guitar rock. You know, all that sort of, there's all that stuff going on. But I thought it was really interesting, and yeah, and I'll get into this in the album stuff because I think it's worth attention. So, as we previously said, we have covered them before on Into the Music. I won't go too much. Well, we'll give you some bit about the band, just a refresher. So, Super Furry Animals, 1993 to 2010, and then 2015 to 2016, and now on hiatus, but probably not really coming back. They're described as alternative rock, indie rock, power pop, neo psychedelia, and electronica. And they definitely have all of that, sometimes in one song. They formed in Cardiff in 1993 after all the members of various other bands, and they coalesced together like the Avengers. The actor, Rhys fans, you probably know him from Twin Town, the fucking brilliant film Twin Town, bit niche. But Notting Hill, Spider-Man, he was the lizard guy in that.
Okay.
I think he was in Harry Potter as one of the self-defense tutors. You know, each film they die, or whatever. But yeah, so he's been in loads of stuff. He really has, and TV stuff. But anyway, so he was their lead vocalist. And they started to perform initially in a techno style before becoming more sort of indie rock orientated. He left as soon as his acting career sort of took off, which is fair enough. He hasn't had too bad a time of it. And so your man took over as lead vocals, and they are Gruff Rhys, lead vocals guitar, Hugh Bunford lead guitar, Guto Price bass guitar. Apologies for pronunciations here. Sean Kieran, it's spelled with C's rather than K's, and keyboard, synths, various electronics, it says, and David Ian, oh god, I'm really sorry, drums. So they've done 9 studio albums. I think I told you this before, but I was in Leicester with my friend many years ago, and we were in, I think it was an HMV, and there was a display of this, and he goes, "Oh, it's a really good album. You should get that." And he only said as a joke, and I did get it, and it was Super Furry Animals' debut album, Fuzzy Logic, and it's fucking excellent. So the joke was on him. So for this album, 2005, all the members of the band contributed songs, because normally it's Gruff Rhys who does most of the songwriting, and then they finish it off in the studio. And all of the members of the band contributed lead vocals to various songs, apart from the bass player. It's only right. Keep them. So for this one, the drummer, David, wrote and sung Atomic Lust. So it's his voice you hear. In selecting the tracks, there was a conscious decision made by the band not to choose songs on their individual merits, but to pick ones which went well together as a cohesive album. And it really does 95% of the time work really well. There's 1.5 tracks which I don't think works well. So the album's called Lovecraft, and craft is spelled with a K. And the album's name is taken from a sex shop called Lovecraft Limited, which is near the Cardiff offices of the Super Furries management team, and it's also a nod to American horror writer H.P. Lovecraft, obviously. So while they did this, they recorded this. Normally, they're firmly sponsored in Wales for all their recordings, but they actually went to Spain, Catalonia, and recorded there. And I think they even had a local choir sing at one point. but they did it all on a budget. They didn't go crazy. There was and then I think they mastered it or remixed it in Brazil or something like that. But there were several found sounds that were recorded and used in the album, including the buzzing of a Brazilian electrical substation, one of my favorites, and the sound of pool balls being rubbed together, which when you hear it, you know that sound like clang.
Yeah, the sort of clang. Yeah.
Yeah. The album's opening track, Zoom, starts with a recording of Hugh Bunford jumping into a swimming pool. You get a splash, and then the song kicks off for no reason at all. So the critical response to this album was okay, mixed, I'd say. It had a Metacritic score of 77, which again is pretty good. It's okay. But The Guardian, Uncut, and Music OMH all thought it was the best Super Furry Animal album to date. However, I think due to the quirky nature of the band's output and the variance in genres and stuff, they have this created an expectation of pushing the envelope, which means that critics often judge the output on variation and what sort of new and exciting boundaries and strangeness, rather than just the overall impact of the songs. And so there was criticism that, oh, it was just okay, it didn't really do anything weird or different. Not every album has to do that, but
yeah, exactly.
Critics alike. I mean, there's a few little snippets here. Enemy review, in their review, which is a very good review, they did write this: there's a case to be argued that Super Furry Animals are the most important band of the past 15 years. So that's pretty high praise. And then, yeah, this Pitchfork. They wrote Love. I mean, I've cut out most of the fucking nonsense that they write. But so Lovecraft is a utopian. No, I say most, not all. Lovecraft is a utopian epic, a sweeping musical argument for love in the time of Fallujah. In that sense, it's vintage SFA, with even its departures underscoring the band's long-established strengths. The leftist politics are less overt, but just as potent. The compositions are more focused, but still mad as a Lewis Carroll Hatter. The pop more rocking, yet probably more accessible to noobs. Even beyond the album title, everything Super Furry means more than it seems. Atomic Lust is apparently about Ewan's fear of flying, as well as if it's not love, then it's the bomb apocalyptic romance, complete with turbulence sound effects. I'm not sure how that really fits in with what we just heard, but anyway. There's another one, Treblezine website, and they made a really good point here. Another heavyweight acting as a mixture of Pink Floyd, Blur, Bowie, the Beatles, and the Beach Boys, while depicting a Muse-like end of the world. Atomic Lust's sweet Lennon-esque chorus held weepy strings, highlighting this pretty song with hidden meanings. That is until about 2:15 in, when the wailing 70s guitars kick in for an interlude. And then he goes on to say how wonderful they are. He does make an interesting point though later on. He says, even though their music sounds very little alike, the Super Furry Animals are usually thrown in the same sentence as Radiohead. The similarities lie mostly in the fact that each of the band are fully musicians who started great and only got better at their craft with time. And each album they do comes with the stretching of boundaries of what rock music can do, with both bands somewhat reinventing themselves each time out. So fair enough. This song has been pointed out a lot, so I went and checked it out. The intro does have hints of Feel Flows by the Beach Boys, but it is only hints. It's nothing really totally been, unless it's pointed out to you, might not. Some people in all the comments went, "Oh, this is a total rip-off," and it really isn't. But anyway, the song does, as I've mentioned, feature many string and woodwind instruments. But I know loads, so I didn't take all names. But just in particular, Matthew Draper on Cor Anglais. That bit which you mentioned when there's sort of strings and that Cor Anglais kicks in, I think is the real soul of the song. It's a beautiful little sort of passage there. And I do think that this track and the one preceding it, Zoom, they both have Dark Side of the Moon sort of connotations. They wouldn't be out of place on that album in terms of the feel of the songs, which gets really interesting. Anyway, lyrics. If your moon should eclipse me and block out my sun, ride on typhoons and hurricanes, watch Sky Map on rerun. Find times to walk on wine, heads down, no stress. Find some atomic lust, whenever more or less, and then horns and strings. And then it comes back in. So long, the thrill's gone long. No more duress, no more atomic lust, whenever more or less. And then my notes I've written psychedelic guitar crash, as you said, crash is exactly right. And then it comes out. Let's get our shit together. Insane with crack brains. I'd love to see the ending someday of Citizen Kane. Find times to walk on wine. Heads down, no stress. Find some atomic lust. Whenever more or less. And then I've written more psychedelic goodness, piano, guitar, sort of solo that fizzles out. And I think the vid on I gave you does stop quite abruptly because it's sequenced straight to the next track. That's why I'm sure you got that. And you're right in terms of like them all coming together. I think it's really nice that they all like took turns and singing. So real, and as an album, I wouldn't say it's got the best songs of Super Furry Animals, but as a complete album, it works really, really well. Doesn't quite get the love that other albums do. I mean, Radiator's Lion Eyes, I think it's decent, but it's not as good as everyone says. I prefer John's Raw, I prefer the debut album to Radiator, but that's probably sacrilege, but there you go.
Yeah,
So,
I appreciate the selflessness and how they go about
yeah,
like all like whatever level of the process they're going through. It
yeah,
seems like selflessness is the theme du jour, where whether it's you'll sing this song or I'll sing this song or you write that song or I write this song, down to the when the songs are written or being written, even how they cobble together all the pieces. Like no one is getting like is outshining anyone. Maybe at different junctures of the song, but never do you step away from the song and go, "Woof! This was just a complete guitar track," or anything like that. It just seems really the balance is really well struck with this.
I remember seeing them on later with Jules Holland right at the start of their career when their album had just dropped, and I just got it. I got it by accident the day it came out. I didn't know that at the time, and they were on that week on Jules Holland, and I always remember because Griffiths, the lead singer and guitarist, is left-handed, so he sticks out because I'm left-handed as well, so it sticks out to me. But he was on there, and you could almost see him visibly shaking, which I thought was really interesting. You know, whether it was because you just come down or something, or genuine nerves. But they don't strike me as a band with a lot of ego, a lot of humor, but not a lot of ego. Anyway, after this album, Gruff recently released his second solo album, Candyline, and the next Super Furry Animals album, Hey Venus, was released that year as well. The band released their final studio album, Dark Days, Light Nights, in 2009, and then went on a 5-year hiatus in 2010. They reformed for a few gigs in 2015. And then they toured North America in 2016. I think there was some anniversary and compilation stuff coming out. And they released a single, Bing Bong, which celebrated the Wales national football team reaching the Euro Championship finals in 2016. They finished that year by playing both Fuzzy Logic, their debut album, and Radiator, their second album. They played them in full at gigs, touring both UK and Ireland. In 2019, Bumford, Kieran, Price, and Ewan reformed without Reese under the name Das Coolies, an alter ego that Super Furry Animals used around the year 2000 for experimental electronic album, which never was officially released. Das Coolies released their debut single, It's All About the Dolphins. See, they're creeping in every episode.
Goddamn Dolphins.
They're
taking over.
Yeah, it was released in January 2020. According to Kieran, Das Coolies is now their main focus. They are no longer focusing on anything from Super Furry Animals, so doesn't look likely to come back. But
is the sound really that divergent from what you were getting with Super Furry Animals?
I've not heard Das Coolies, so I should check it out. Really?
Yeah,
I guess. I was just a bit reluctant because it might be shit.
Well,
You know, well, I probably will.
excellent.
But anyway, so I shall wrap things up.
Yeah, great song.
And,
Man.
thanks for listening to something. Glad you enjoyed it. Bit of a trip, folks out there. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you think about this song. If you like it, please do hit the like button. Drop some comments about this, about the album Lovecraft, about Super Furry Animals, about my favorite track, "The Man Don't Give a Fuck." That's a great song. Yeah, anything you want, just drop. We love hearing from you. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please do. And help support this channel. We really appreciate everyone who does. Fitter, stronger, lasting longer. I don't know. But anyway, that being said, thanks so much. Soft, strong, very, very long. Sorry, that's the word. Toilet rolls. That being said, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.